Ladies and gentlemen, video games. We all experience loneliness at some point in our lives. Some more than others, though still remaining a universal experience. Social stimulus pertains to animals even. It's not some wild concept to want to connect with people. I also believe many of you know the torrent of calamity can throw you into, the desolate purgatory experienced in your heart as life thrives adjacent, leaving you longing for connection in the stark mundaneness of daily life. Paintings, words, art convey these emotions effectively. The cry of fear is absolute poetry.
Feeling lonely and being alone are two separate emotions. You can feel lonely despite being surrounded by groups of friends or family, but being alone is the complete absence of humanity around, or inside of you. Cry of Fear does well to encapsulate this oppressive feeling of loneliness and transforms it into utter despair at times. Being alone is one of the central themes of the game. Simon has mostly been abandoned by his family and peers, clinging to any little bit of hope he has left as the emptiness just eats away at him from the inside. This is far from a happy game. Even the objectively best choices still lead you through a path of pain that may bring more loneliness to you or others. Classifying Cry of Fear as a psychological horror can only do it so much justice. Whereas Silent Hill chips away at your sanity, drowning you in sounds and ideas of abstract horror, Cry of Fear takes a different psychological approach, making you question your own humanity. If you have nothing left, are you really human anymore? Cry of Fear is the story of a man named Simon coping with the loss of his metaphorical life, represented physically through the loss of his legs and the absence of life around him. Throughout his life, Simon had always felt lonely, but the accident had slipped away the few connections he had left, leaving him truly alone. Simon is tasked by his therapist to write down all his negative emotions, and this is where the game takes place. Upon the contorted, visceral, and horrifying twist and reincarnation of the single black day of Simon's metaphorical death. However, there's something of note here. The actual crash isn't present in his memories, only the ripples of emotion and turmoil are cast upon his daily life. This is what ends up draining Simon's humanity. The constant rehearsal of pain and isolation consistently eats away at him, and the true horror of it all is how real the journey feels. Cry of Fear eloquently shows the descent of madness isolation can take us in. Whether you think about it while playing or not, the realism of Simon's plight is all too striking. Of course, the regular game is scary too, but you're not here for the wacky reaction YouTuber content that just screams at the spooky booky flesh tree. You can pull it back up? Oh, I don't know if I want to do that. If I pull up the gate, does he come back? Oh god! What the hell? Oh my god! I just had like 7 heart attacks. If you're a normal human being, you've probably experienced many moments of unwanted memories popping up in your head at the worst times. This is the baseline of Simon's situation, amplified 100-fold, made worse every passing second by his continued existence. In my experience, video games are a good coping mechanism for loneliness, or other issues even. I know I have plenty of depression games like Silent Hill 2, Yume Nikki, and the fabled Dark Souls. FS is DS is BS and jokes I spit in all my videos, but it really means a lot to me like it does to many people, probably in a different way than most. Everybody talks about how it's a life-changing experience that taught them to overcome odds or some bullshit, but to me, Dark Souls has always been a lonely game. Nearly everything you come across is lonely or isolated. The lone, snuggly crow, Oscar, the only knight in the asylum, Solaire, the sole individual holding on to blind hope. Even the environments can be lonely. Many desolate plains devoid of life, isolated towns packed between thick walls. Ash Lake is mystical and terrifying all at the same time. The endless expanse of arch trees, ocean, and the abyss invoke wild and dreadful imaginations.
And in your loneliness, may you find comfort. Dark Souls gives the message that it's okay to be alone, since everything around you is just as isolated. It's also a beautiful world to explore that you can peer off into and just get lost in. And in your immersion, you may forget about being lonely, perhaps a little bit.
The Dark City in Cry of Fear is another place filled with wondrous exploration. It may not always be fun or whatever the opposite of anxiety-inducing is, but you can really feel the lonely vibes peering off into the Dark City line or across empty lakes. Streets devoid of life except for occasional monsters, but filled with the remnants of civilization as if everyone suddenly disappeared. It comes with much surprise to Simon as it does us to see anyone. Sophie, the doctor, and all the normal people he's killed. But even then, everyone's still living in their separate realities. The doctor sees normal people as monsters, while Sophie doesn't understand anything that's going on and... oh, she's already gone. This is very much a lonely game, but instead of being a mystical journey that causes you to forget your loneliness, it makes it ever so apparent and forces you to confront that loneliness head on, with all of the tragedy and relief, the ups and downs with it. Cry of Fear draws a lot of inspiration from Silent Hill, obviously. What horror game doesn't? I've only played Silent Hill 2, so I can only speak for that game's themes. The execution of throwing the player into an unknowing descent of madness is very similar. The protagonist holds secrets up until the very end, both have Shooty McGun, and both are depressing games. I'm not saying Cry of Fear is a ripoff. These are just very effective storytelling methods that both games implement. And honestly, I felt more from playing Cry of Fear than I did my first time playing Silent Hill 2. Maybe I can relate more to the loneliness than the, wife killing. I'm not here to go super in-depth about Cry of Fear's plotline or structure because a nice British man already did that 7 months before me. And I wanted to focus on the lonely vibes, which are sprinkled with hope every now and then. This game's arc of loneliness and depression reflect reality pretty accurately. While there's this constant oppressive feeling weighing down on your soul with no light in sight, there are always those small moments or pieces of life that keep you going. An extra magazine or seeing an old friend. Of course, this doesn't fix anything long term, but you'll slowly get better over time. There is no grand climax of finding the solution to all your problems and instantly becoming mentally healthy. This is reflected in Cry of Fear's endings. There is no necessarily good one. It really depends on your philosophy. Simon either ends the life of himself or other innocent people in his process of breaking free. It shows how intense action isn't the solution to ending the cycle of misery, but a catalyst for change to slowly heal. I don't want to get all preachy with mental health. A lot of fake people do it, and obviously I don't have all the right answers. I'm just some depressed guy on the internet who can never seem to feel good about himself. So, I know at least a few things about being alone. That could be why games about exploration, sadness, or loneliness really stand out to me. They offer an escapism detached from reality where you can find solace in wandering empty fields. Much like listening to a sad song in bed, it's relatable while also breaking the confines of the reality that makes you so damn depressed in the first place. I don't have to worry about what I'm doing with my life, who's going to dump unnecessary bullshit on my lap that day, or being around people when I play games like Yume Nikki, Dark Souls, etc. I just deal with whatever I put myself through. They're the experiences that offer comfort in loneliness, because there's no expectation for the opposite. They offer connection, something that most people thrive on. What Simon lost in the first place that led him to his melancholic epitaph. Connection that most of nature loves. The trees enveloped in the soil and sunlight, elk prancing away through concealing fauna. But human connection is difficult. You have your pile of self-doubt and anxieties, coupled with the fact that everyone's too damn busy with their own lives half the time. But even small connections, or the media that replaces them, can offer enough comfort to stave off loneliness.
It's Jacob Geller time. baby.
The Man of the Forest is a novel by Zane Grey because I'm doing it. I'm going full Jacob Geller mode and nobody can stop me. I don't have the book because I'm poor. So I have this substitute instead. It's not fully a story about loneliness, but rather how connections can change people. The Man of the Forest is an old western starring Milt Dale, your average forest-dwelling hunter who tends to avoid people. Despite having friends and some semblance of society to go to, he tends to stick to the cycle of nature rather than the conflict of humans. Until he eavesdrops on a plot to kidnap an innocent girl from the east, but even in the presence of people, he maintains his distant isolation. It turns into a love story, of course, so you can see it coming from a mile away. But Milt Dale goes through a grueling transformation on one lonely winter season, where he realizes he can't live without the one meaningful connection he's ever made in his life. And Dale, like some men of lonely wilderness lives who did not retrograde toward the savage, was a thinker. Love made him a sufferer. It's an interesting novel, my first Western. Not the best book I've read, but hey, I'm trying. I'm not much of a reader, actually. You know, not all of us with the messed up brains got the lucky genes to go through 6 in a day. This story is a good example of how loneliness is a prevalent topic in any form of media. It's a universal struggle, just as connection is a universal beauty. And Cry of Fear contextualizes its unfathomable, horrific trauma into a relatable light, allowing us to empathize with the universal struggle of loneliness and turn it into the crippling pain of isolation. Remember to interact with your friends, meet new people. As Simon's story goes, self-isolation can only help you so much after trauma. But there's one takeaway message from the game: shoot your demons.